stage yet because our last storyteller tonight is Annie Ganga, who you already know. But I want to say a couple of words about Annie, just really quickly. I know we all want to get home into our bed suits. But I just want to say that Annie, as you know, is an incredible storyteller and also has done, I'm going to say countless solo shows, because I haven't counted them. So they're countless. And she has a wonderful book that I keep by my computer, by my desk as inspiration, called Stoners and Self-Appointed Saints. And she also recently had a residency at Portland Story Theater. Is that the appropriate name, the correct name? Where she developed another one of her shows, and she's going to go tell a story while I'm doing my Frontier Fest. In fact, part of why I'm doing it is she's leaving me for a month or two to go tell a story up in Portland again, because she was a huge hit there. And I'm so proud that you're my friend, and that, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Please help me welcoming back to stage.
That was awkward. I didn't know if you were hugging right then or not. Okay, so my story, I want to tell you, is going to be short. Maybe. And Billy, I want you to film it. What's up with the camera?
Out of juice.
Okay, HEB batteries. But Brandon, you're filming it. Because I need to see how I look in this skirt. At the store, it looks good. And then you never know until you see it on the film. And you're like, I don't know if it needs to be retired, if it needs to go on the altar with the clogs or not. And I don't want your input. I'm going to figure that out for myself. Huh?
I like to put the clogs on.
You want me to put the clogs on? Okay, I'll do it. So, anyway, my story is about something that happened a couple of years ago. And I had a friend who was my age, and she had that total nightmare thing happen. We all don't, many of us, what are we called when we have psychosomatic illness? Hypochondriacs, yeah. Many of us hypochondriacs will know, like, you get a pain in your arm and you think, oh, I have arm cancer. And she had that thing where she actually, had her back hurt, and she'd always been someone, she was one of these people, amazing. I knew her back in the day when we were both slam poets, which I hate to admit to you that I ever was that. But her name's Gabrielle, and she had crazy big red hair, and she was so, I made sure my little picture of her showed her boobs. She was really proud of her boobs and her body, and she loved men, and she loved to party, and she loved to write, and she was one of these people that she would get up in the morning, she would go to her day job, she'd get off work, she'd go start drinking, she'd go do a show, then she'd go home, alone or with someone, then she'd do a little bit of writing, she'd sleep for 25 minutes, then get up, have black coffee, put on red lipstick, and do it all over again. That was her life. She was one of those people. And now because, I'm like, I love to say the old Bill Hicks joke, which is, I like to get about 12 hours of sleep a day, and then, 8 hours at night. That's how I'm a sleeper. So, anyway, she just was one of those people that just had so much energy always, and around the time that she had this back pain, she was starting to take naps, and that really was freaking her out. And finally, the back pain was so bad, she went to the emergency room, and what do you know? Stage 4 gallbladder cancer. She got there at 6 p.m. By 1 a.m., they say to her, well, you've got 6 months to live, you've got a whole bunch of blood clots, you need to go in ICU right now, is there anyone else who wants to call?
Wow.
And she was like, I guess my parents, And so I heard about this while I was on tour, which is so strange. Billy and I were on tour together, we were doing a book tour, and I got this, I think it's an email, she sent out this broadcast email because she was one of these people that had, she was like Linda Valencia, she had like 1,500 very close friends, people that she really knew and really loved and that had really helped. She had this huge community, and so she sent out this big broadcast email that said, look, you guys, I just found out I'm gonna die, and don't call me, just go to my Caring Bridge website. You know what that is? When you're dying and then it's like the most boring blog ever. You know, it's really, I'm not going to do a Caring Bridge website when I am dying. I just want you to know. And also, no one is allowed to recite any original poetry in my hospice room. You're only allowed to recite Mary Oliver. Okay. Anyway, so, and only from American Primitive. And maybe there will be other rules as I get closer to that time. Anyway, so on tour, and I read this email, and I immediately call her. So I call her and I say, oh my God, what can I do? We're on the road, but as soon as I get back, I'll do anything for you. And she said, well, just be my friend. And I was like, couldn't she just ask me for $500? But of course, gonna be her friend. And so we got to enjoy a close time while she was dying, and I got to know her parents, and she really did. I think she died in like 5 or 6 months. And when it was just so weird. It was just so weird to me, this experience. She and I were very witchy back in the day, and I felt that she was always kind of powerful. In fact, a little too powerful. She kind of spooked me out a little bit. And in fact, when I was making her sugar skull and stuff, I kept feeling like if I didn't do it right, she'd fuck with me somehow. I loved and feared her. And but we had done spells together back in the day, and I will say that while maybe we didn't get the results we wanted, we always got results. So there was something going on, some power. And so anyway, she's dying, and for some reason, I believe she might get over it. I think maybe she will do spells. Maybe she will live. And I have never been this person. My mother died when I was very young. My grandfather who lived with us died shortly after. My father died. And so my experience, whenever I hear of anyone, I hear about cancer or any terrible illness, I go from 0 to death. I just immediately know they're going to die. I just never feel like it's my job to be hopeful, and I don't want to usually, because I think that will somehow be maybe devastating to me or something. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't know. Hope feels useless. And for some reason, just kind of, I wasn't trying, but I really, every time I looked at her, I just thought, oh, she's totally going to get better. I just felt like I knew that. And another thing about her, before she got sick, was she was kind of like me, maybe 20, 30 pounds more than me. She had gotten kind of middle-agey weight-wise, and she lost a ton of weight. Now, we didn't think, oh, this is your body wasting. Everyone was like, my God, you look amazing, right? She was wearing tight jeans. She looked good. She looked sexy. And so that was another piece that made me think, oh, she's fine. And it's funny, somebody put a hospice picture of us on Facebook. There were so many pictures. And I saw a picture of the two of us. And it's incredible in the photograph because she looks like a cadaver, her face looked like a skull with lipstick. She had that bitemporal wasting, it's called. She'd gotten that dying face where it's like the skin is translucent and it seems like light is coming through it. She had that. But in the moment, my memory of that in the moment is that she was totally fine. I didn't see any of that. It was her. And in fact, my last words to her were, I didn't know at the time also that right before you die, a lot of times you rally, get that thing, and it's very confusing. Sometimes people like me or friends and family is that someone's been very, working internally and to die, and then they're kind of like, hey, I want some lasagna, what's up, hi. And it's, I don't know why that happens, but it's a thing that happens. And she had this, and in fact, she had, so many people came to visit her, we had to have a schedule, and had to police it, but there were always, of course, a little gaggle of cute boys, in her room, and they loved being there with her, but they also were kind of freaked out, and they always wanted a reason to leave and go get her things. And so she has this rallying, and says, I want some tacos. And so these boys run out and they get a ton of tacos, and she eats them. And I get there, I think, later that night, and she is starting to feel worried about what's going on. She's starting to feel bad. And my last words to her were, probably before I walked out the door, I said, I love you, bye. But, you know, my last significant thing in conversation with her was, she was saying, I think this is bad, you know. I think what's going on right now is bad. And I said, oh, no, you just need to take a shit. You had those tacos, and once you poo, you'll be fine. And honestly, I believed that. And I don't know why. To this day, I don't have anything to tell you about why that was my role. I was just the one who could look at her and just say, yeah, you're going to get better. And I don't know if that was good or bad. You know, when she died, I was right outside her room, and you know, she died, and I realized, oh, I was wrong. You know, like, oh, it was okay. And somehow that seemed good that it was okay, you know, that I had been wrong. Oh, maybe right now I'm getting that. That's the thing. It was okay that I was wrong. It was okay for me. And I think about what David was saying about, you know, the gifts we get from people dying. There's just so much learning I had. And one thing that I had was, I think I may have been in the room when she died. I was in the room with her when her father believed that she had died. But in fact, I think she had died when the person right before me was in there. Because when I walked in, it seemed like I was walking into a room with a dead person. But it seemed like her father was closer to me, and I think that maybe that's just when he was able to notice. But right before I went in her room, I was sitting outside of it, I had this incredible feeling. And this feeling was like it was like a big, you know, kind of burst of happiness about her. Not that she was dying, but I just had this like, oh yeah, oh, it's so good there was Gabrielle. You know, I just had like a fuck yeah. And it was such a great feeling. And right after I had, you know, as I was saying, my upbringing, my experience of people dying means if someone dies, it's awful, and your whole world that is, you know, the topography of your world is just totally shifted in shitty, bad ways. I had not experienced, like, even though she was young, there was something in her dying and her death that gave me this little epiphany, and I said, oh, this is natural. Dying is natural. And that felt so satisfying to me. And the last thing I want to tell you about Gabrielle's death was, because she'd been such a partier for so long, she could totally handle morphine. And so she could handle everybody, and she was totally gracious. People from all over had sent her food and stuff, so when you walked in, she's like, do you want some cookies? Do you want some cheesecake? How are you doing? She was a hostess in her hospice room. You know, and she kept her parents from being terrified, and she handled it. She was graceful, you know? And I just thought, she had a successful death. She was awesome in it, you know? And I think being a lifelong stoner helped her in that also. She wasn't afraid. Being on drugs didn't make her weird. She could do people with that. But I don't know what her last words were. I think about that. I think about people's last words. Billy and I, do you remember us talking about it? And what did you tell them? Do you remember what you said you think your last words are going to be?
Something like, I need changing.
So good. What?
Keep it for the camera.
Oh, and he said, I need changing. That's what he thinks. Does anyone know what the last words of most pilots who go on plane crashes is? Does anybody know? Oh shit. Yeah, that's what's on there. And I love, my favorite famous person last words are Oscar Wilde's, which are, what?
Because that wallpaper has to go before I go.
Yes, yes. Either that wallpaper goes or I do. So good, so good. I also love that person who has a tombstone that says, "I told you I was sick." I feel like that, maintaining your hosting abilities, maintaining your sense of humor, in the face of death is so powerful to me. And I hope that when it's my time, that I will have, I really hope that I'll have the skills to be an interesting and entertaining dying person. and graceful. And I really want my last words to be, "This better be good."
Yeah.
And so thank you for listening to my story. I'd love for all the storytellers to say goodbye. Let's all bow. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. And Amy and Bill, thank you all so much for being with us. And you always just tell them how good we were. Okay? Tell them how good we were.